So finally, a reporter has had enough and decided to call out the deceitful conduct of the US State Department minions, namely Matthew Miller and Vedant Patel. And if some of you are feeling bad on the use of minions for these two individuals, trust me, I'm being very respectful here. I had a few better terminologies to address them. So this unnamed reporter called Patel on his face that he, along with Matthew Miller, had been disgracing the State Department podium, which is meant for having an honest dialogue with media personnel.
Don't grab, man. 1 week you did not give me a chance. You don't see me in the room.
Please don't interrupt your colleagues. Go ahead, John.
Mr. Vedant, I've been a journalist 25 years. Don't tell me how to treat my colleagues. You need to treat the journalists with respect. It's my 4th press briefing with you. You have ignored
Jaleel, not everybody gets a question. John, please go ahead.
Otherwise, I'm going to have insulted
I'm
you.
happy
Just what
to.
I'm doing
I'm happy to. I'm happy to end the briefing if you're not going to.
Attitude. If you treat a journalist like this is a shameful attitude.
Go ahead, John.
You and Matt are disgracing this podium.
But is that enough? Many of you have always wondered as to why other journalists don't call out the lies of these State Department loonies in a way that their conduct warrants. There were at least 3 occasions, 3, today, when reporters were either very respectful or simply could not muster courage to highlight the brazen complicity of the Biden administration in the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. Okay, Tom Bateman of BBC came very close, but this wasn't quite enough.
Tom, go ahead.
Follow up on the settlement announcement that Minister Smotrich made yesterday. Do you think your opposition to it will stop this settlement being built?
That is not really for me to speak to, Tom. These are obviously unilateral Israeli actions, and when it comes to the United States, not only have we had made our perspective and our point of view on this incredibly clear, how it is a detraction from Israel's security, how it takes us away from a two-state solution, but we also continue to have tools in our tool belt to hold to account individuals who we may think be contributing to greater insecurity in the West Bank. I'm not going to speculate on that from here, though.
I mean, that's a separate point, but this is a government-announced settlement. This isn't an outpost. So, I mean, it's the same question, really. If you oppose it, I don't quite see why you can't stop it.
I'm sorry, I don't really follow, Tom.
I mean, you've opposed hundreds of settlement announcements, and they are all then built. So what's the point of repeatedly saying you oppose them?
It is important for us to make clear our perspective and our point of view, as well as to raise these sometimes tough and difficult conversations with our Israeli partners, and we'll continue to do so.
But doesn't it just expose the weakness of your position in that you can say something and say it's your policy, but clearly it doesn't have any effect on the ground?
I would take issue with that characterization, Tom. These are not actions that the United States is party to.
The correct way would have been to say that why do you keep fooling us day in and a day out with your nonsense? Either Israel doesn't take you seriously, in that case, you should reconsider your military aid to that country, or you don't mean what you say about Palestinians, i.e., you are quite happy to see them being massacred by Israelis. On another occasion, journalist Sean sought to grill Patel on the merit in prolonging the ceasefire talks when Hamas had already agreed to accept the terms and conditions stated by Joe Biden on the 31st of May. Now, Patel kept rambling pointlessly, and yet no journalist could show the courage to call out his bluff.
I know that Admiral Kirby over at the White House spoke at length on this today. But I wanted to ask you, one of the things that he kept saying was that this is the negotiations and the discussions in Doha right now are very much about implementation at this point, that the broader framework has been agreed. Could you explain that a little bit? I mean,
sure.
If not mistaken, Hamas has actually said that we need to implement what the president proposed on May 31st. I know you're not you wouldn't say you're taking the Hamas position on this, but is there a sense that it needs to be implemented, that there isn't like a room for more negotiations?
So I would very much echo what Admiral Kirby said, and I spoke a little bit about this earlier in the week in response to, I think, a question Saeed had and a number of you as well. It is our view, and it continues to be the case, that the broader framework of what the president laid out at the end of May has generally been accepted. But of course, this is a negotiation with two parties, and
Isn't it simple? I don't know, it's not a rocket science. Biden presented the ceasefire plan on 31st of May, right? Nobody disagrees. And when he presented, he sold this as being a proposal from the Israeli government. Don't take my word for it. Here is what he had said.
Now, after intensive diplomacy carried out by my team, and my many conversations with leaders of Israel, Qatar, and Egypt, and other Middle Eastern countries, Israel has offered a comprehensive new proposal. It's a roadmap to an enduring ceasefire and the release of all hostages. This proposal has been transmitted by Qatar to Hamas. Today, I want to lay out its terms for the American citizens and for the world.
So if Biden said on 31st of May that what he was proposing was essentially an Israeli plan, and Hamas has now agreed to accept those terms of the ceasefire, why would you need to prolong the talks unless your motive or your desire is to get more and more Palestinians killed and their properties destroyed? And don't forget, Hamas, which is an important stakeholder in any talks of a ceasefire on Palestine, is not even taking part in the latest round of the talks. And yet, no reporter could bluntly tell Patel this. What's the fear? Surely this Patel cannot get them fired for simply asking a difficult question. That's a journalist's job. That's your job as a journalist. Since when did reporters develop such cowardice? Now, there was another moment when a journalist drew the State Department's duplicity to their spokesperson's attention by referring to the gut-wrenching testimony of a Canadian doctor about Israeli brutalities in Gaza.
Canadian doctor Ben Thompson, who volunteered in Gaza earlier this year, posted a video on X in which he tells the story of a doctor in Gaza who was forced to strip naked and stand for 2 days by Israeli force, urinating and defecating where he stood. He was only allowed to treat his patients while naked. Do you have any comment on that?
so I've not seen that video, but if those reports are accurate, certainly that would be deeply troubling and just outright offensive. And if true, the IDF should look into these allegations and hold to account any perpetrators. But again, I don't have more information
Okay, I have
on
two
that
more.
beyond what you said.
2 days ago, Israel killed pharmacist Dr. Juman, her mother, and her 3 days old twin in a strike. No other unit were struck in that strike, which makes it a very precise and targeted strike. Since you are in direct contact with the Israelis, can you ask them, or do you have any opinion why would they target and kill a grandmother, a mom, and a 3-day-old twin?
I don't have any specific information on this, and I'll let the IDF speak to their own operation.
Okay,
Go ahead.
one more.
I'm going to work the room because I have a hard
one more.
off. Go ahead.
You know what Patel did? He decided to cut off the reporter. Why? Because he was asking an uncomfortable question, and how dare he? And yet, no reporter, absolutely no reporter, came to this reporter's support in the face of this brazen bullying by Patel. You have such cowardly reporters in a country which has the First Amendment? I'm sorry for being harsh, but this is not the kind of journalism I have practiced in my career spanning more than 25 years. I was sacked in India for being a critic of Narendra Modi, just being a critic of Narendra Modi in 2014. But I never compromised with my ethics and core values of journalism. I became unemployable because no one would hire me fearing consequences from Modi. But this did not stop me from being an ethical journalist. And I'm so proud that I was responsible for breaking one of the biggest news items in living memory on a corruption scandal in India. This came to be known as Rafale scam. Go and Google. India's multi-billion defense deal with French company Dassault Aviation. That was on Janta Ka Reporter platform. We're still so proud of this piece of journalism. So it's not difficult being an ethical journalist, and it's not difficult asking difficult questions to politicians or to people in power. That's it for today. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.